Hi, welcome guys. Rob here from Fly Fishing Journeys, and I'm honored to be on this Zoom call with my new friend Rodrigo Salas from Untamed England. Rodrigo, thanks for being on our call.
Thank you very much, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you and have this nice conversation. Thank you.
I'm excited to learn about all that there is here in Untamed Angling, and I do want to let our viewers know that we're coming to you on behalf of the Fly Fishing Show because I know that you guys are incredible supporters of the Fly Fishing Show. You do a lot of the shows, and I know you're looking forward to next season again. Rodrigo, how many of the Fly Fishing Show locations do you actually do?
We have been participating on the fly fishing show since 2012.
Wow.
We started in Somerset, and then we figured out that it was such nice place to be and a perfect place to show a little bit more of our company and our destinations. So year after year, we started to do new locations, and normally we do Denver, then we go to Somerset, now Edison and Atlanta, then Pleasanton, and also Linwood in Washington State.
Wow. So like 4 or 5 of the shows. That is phenomenal. You guys
Exactly.
are on like almost the whole circuit.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
planning on
And
doing those again next year.
yeah, we spend a lot of time in US in this moment. It's also meets our off season, so it's perfect to me and my business partner Marcelo to be in US and make all this networking, be at the shows, and between shows do some presentations in some fly shops and
Yep.
participating in other events. So it's really nice to be there at the beginning of the year.
So before we jump off the fly fishing show, can you just tell our viewers what it is about the show that you guys like to participate in? Because that's a huge time commitment. That's also a financial commitment. Why do you like to connect at the fly fishing shows with your customers?
Well, at the beginnings in the first year, we went just to see the audience and then understand better what it is because we were just beginning in attending and exhibiting in a fly fishing show. And then we figure out that was a perfect networking place, not only to meet with new potential customers, but also to get along with the industry players in the market, all the brands, and also other lodges, other guides, outfitters that are in the same business as us. So we found a really nice place to be and do good business.
So thank you for that, Rodrigo. And why don't you tell our viewers a bit about your background? Now, I know you're trained as a civil engineer there in Brazil, and you're partners in Untamed Angling, and you have the 4 lodges there in Brazil. You have 3 lodges in Bolivia, and then we have a secret announcement that our viewers I want to talk about at the end. And we'll save one more announcement for the end. But why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background as a civil engineer, Untamed Angling, and how this beautiful network of lodges came to be in the heart of South America, in the heart of the Amazon River Basin.
Well, first, I'm Brazilian, and I grew up fishing in Brazil, especially in the Pantanal Marsh with my grandfather. And I grew up fishing those jungle species that nowadays people love to catch on the fly, like the freshwater dorado or the peacock bass. Well, uh, it's my home waters. It's where I started everything as an angler. And years after I I became a civil engineer, started working in construction companies, in always fishing, obviously as a sport, but I always have a dream to do something related with a fly fishing travel business. And then in one trip that I made to Argentina, to a place that is just starting to go, it was the scouting season in the Uruguay River. I met Marcelo, and Marcelo was the guy that was starting to run that project, and I become amazed about how that place had such potential. We immediately become friends, and Marcelo invited me to be his commercial director and then sell that place, La Zona in the Uruguay River, uh, in the beginnings. That was in 2004, and then we started basically the first project in the company. Then we we made a project in Argentina in Tierra del Fuego for sea run brown trout in the Irigoyen River. Another other couple of projects in Patagonia, but finally we found that we are. I grew up in the jungle, fishing in the jungle. Marcel is the same, and we had a dream to do something different in the jungle. We understand that there's so many different species in the Amazon jungle, in South America, in freshwater, that is a brand new world. You know, it's a, it's a new thing. And at the same time, uh, most of the outfitters at that moment were just concentrated in conventional tackle and doing conventional tackle trips. And say, uh, that's that's not fair. We need to find out the best places for catch all those species on the fly, and really do something different. And then we discovered Simani in Bolivia. Uh, and then everything started to be more real because we found out a magical place for the fish, freshwater dorado, in crystal clear waters, wet wading, and sight fishing for that fish that I grew up fishing, that Marcelo grew up fishing, and say, hey, we found here really a paradise. We need to put this place in in the fly fishing community in the world. And it took us 3 years to run that project because the natives there, the Chimanes, they didn't even know what was tourism. They have really few access to the small towns, almost no support from the government, and we needed to first be friends with them, understand what they really needs, and then is that when Marcelo uh, had the idea to partnership with the natives in Bolivia in a different way. It's just not just paying a fee to enter in the indigenous land. It's to become real partners. And then when we decided to create this joint venture business that we are partners with the natives, sharing the benefits, sharing the decisions of the company and the seasons and so on, uh, they become to be really more interested in, and then we become to have a new model to reply in other places. So making that short, that experience in Bolivia was not only finding the real best place for catching dorado on the fly, but also our school, our background to create all this new model that is the fly fishing tourism, the fly fishing travel business in partnership with the natives.
That's
And
amazing. That's absolutely
that's there where they stand with us. It's a new concept, and then all the Brazilian government started to be interested to open the indigenous areas for some kind of tourism, and then our model was uh, told about that in especially in the indigenous affairs institution in the Brazilian government, and then we are invited to present some ideas of new projects in Brazil in the indigenous land.
That's absolutely amazing, Rodrigo. And I want to dive into Simani and Bolivia and the relationship you have with the native people there. I'd like to start in Brazil because I want to go through this and I really want to reverse engineer each one of your lodges here as far as the species, as far as how you get there, and build some excitement here because I know we're in this crazy time, with this virus and everyone's kind of hunkered down. And I want to talk about how this has affected you. And I want to talk about, as you talked about, what you guys are doing even in this time to prepare. Sometimes that means, we talked about some cancellations, unfortunately, maybe a whole season, maybe part of the season. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and share my screen because I want to just whet the appetite of our viewers of this new lodge that you guys have opened. And it's called Xingu, or how do you pronounce that one?
Yes, Xingu,
Xingu.
Xingu, Xingu. Xingu is the one of the most important rivers in the Amazon basin. Is the clearest water river in the Amazon basin. and it's a very, very special place, especially inside the Kayapo indigenous land where we find this amazing jungle species that is the payara.
Why don't we show this quick video? It's a couple minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Let's go ahead and
Yeah.
share my screen. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. And we can come back and actually talk about your website here, because this is phenomenal. Whoever did your website did a fantastic job. I'm a web developer. I just love the beauty and the artisticness of this website. It's done really well, and it really builds that excitement. But I want to go ahead and bring up this video here, and we can play this for our viewers. Wow. Wow. That's a wow. I got to tell you, Rod, when I put my head on the pillow at night and I dream about fly fishing, and I dream about the ultimate, and I dream about where I want to go, and I dream about the type of fishing that I want to experience, that is a visual personification of what I dream about.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. As I said, in the jungle, we still have so much new species, so much new techniques to develop. It's, I think, is one of the last windows we have of unspoiled and virgin places on Earth, the Amazon jungle rivers, and one of the last windows we have to find new species, to develop new techniques and catch them on the fly.
And that's called the payara.
Payara, or they also know as a vampire fish.
Vampire fish.
Yeah. Obviously, it's obvious you see their fangs, their teeth, but also the reason that it's known as a vampire fish, because this fish has a night behavior on feeding. So
they're nocturnal.
They prefer to feed at night normally, and that's one of the reasons that is really hard to get on the fly. You need to find the right place, the right season, where you can find all the schools moving upstream, and on that specific moment of all the schools together and feeding frenzies before the spawning season, you can catch the payara along the day. Obviously, dawn and dusk are the best times to catch them, but you can
Okay.
catch all over the day. Uh,
Now there was one other species I saw towards the end. Was that like a drum or what was that fish there?
it's another secret we have in the jungle. The corvina, it's a kind of freshwater drum. It's a relative of a drum,
Okay.
and we catch them in the same places we are fishing for payara, specific in deeper pools when they're casting sinking lines, and we catch them. Those fish are delicious to eat as any kind of drum species.
And so the species there at Shingu, if I'm saying that right, Shingu,
Yes, Kingo, it's perfect.
Shingu is mostly the Payata, and then you have some of the Corvina.
We have several different species. We also have peacock bass, a specific endemic species of peacock bass of the Shingle Basin. We have some wolffish. We have bicuda. We have three different species of pacu, matrincha. We have at least 8 or 9 different species you can catch on the fly in a week in the
So,
same kind of waters.
so let me understand this, Rod, because you've got these three beautiful lodges, which we're going to get to
Mm-hmm.
in Brazil. You have Simani, which has 3 lodges in Bolivia. We have the Secret, which we're going to talk about at the end. But
Yes.
then you have this opportunity to open this new area. I mean, first of all, how do you guys find the bandwidth to just continue to grow like this? Because you have all these beautiful places. And then what was the motivation behind this additional lodge in Brazil?
Well, basically because we are anglers. Obviously, we're entrepreneurs, but we have our heart in the jungle. We love what we are doing, and we love exploration. We love to find new places, and what drives us to get those places on is we need to find the best places in each class for each species in the jungle, and that's what we did. Fortunately, we had the chance and the opportunity and be in the right time, in the right moment to open these gates. Uh, it happened with Bolivia and the freshwater Dorado in crystal clear waters waiting. On the past, people are fishing Dorado just from a boat in a big muddy water river in the Paraná Basin. And then we changed the game and found a place that we can catch them in crystal clear waters, sight fishing and fish up to 30, 40 pounds, in a New Zealand style stream. And then we knew that the most uh, perfect and untouched environments in the jungle are still being the national parks and indigenous lands. And obviously, with that model that we created of partnership with the natives, we understood that we can uh, chase and look for, seek those best places for the jungle species in the Amazon. And then it's where we got the Rio Moriá for the giant peacock bass, or the Mamirawa Reserve that we established our Pirarucu Lodge for the giant Arapaima, where we catch also 3 other different species as the tamaki and arowana. And then Kenjan on the Kayapó indigenous land that is close by the Xingu River was one of our first projects in Brazil back in 2013. The Kayapó Native Association knew about our project in Bolivia, and they invited us to be there, to go there and check out their place. They were so remote and so isolated, they don't have no kind of other productive activity that it's worthwhile for them just because of the logistics. So other Kayapa villages close to other places, they have opportunity to do some kind of nuts recollection or some kind of small agriculture or whatever. But the guys in Kenjan, the Kayapas in Kenjan, were so isolated and so remote that they didn't have that. And the most important thing, they were the most protected indigenous village in the Kayapó area in Brazil. So they want to keep their traditions and their culture with a project that will not interfere on that.
Let me ask you. So does Shingu have a relationship with the indigenous people as well?
Yes, yes, definitely. It's all of our projects are established in indigenous lands.
Okay.
That's our model.
That's the model. Okay, so is the relationship, the partnership, basically the same concept, like the same general structure for each and every one of these?
Exactly. We apply the same model, that is the complete partnership with the natives and its indigenous association. Obviously, always with the support of the environmental agencies and the indigenous institution, governmental places in Brazil and also in Bolivia. So we have the background of the natives partnering with us, but at the same time, we pair with the government to establish all the rules of the sport fishing operations in each place, doing scientific research and looking for the areas we are going to fish and how many anglers we can hold in each place per week. So it is a complex thing because uh, as any indigenous lands in Brazil and Bolivia, they are controlled by the government. So all the projects must be submitted and run to the governmental authorities, and then together with them we create a model with the natives and put this all these projects out of the paper and inland.
Can you explain for our viewers, Rodrigo, the benefit that the natives or the indigenous people receive from this partnership?
Definitely. Uh, as I told, they are completely partners. We share the benefits. We are we are 50-50 in all those stuff we do. But we understood that they should not take the risk of the business
Because they
because
have the
we
land, they have the space already.
exactly, and they should not also have the risks of the business because if we include that then on the risks, you need to explain then all how to be a an entrepreneur, how to
Right.
be a businessman, and in their culture, in their villages, they are not prepared to that, and we
Mm-hmm.
must respect that. And a common mistake of many community-based projects in South America and indigenous lands are to trying to transform them in businessmen. That's where they lose their sense of the community and they start to do things by their own and they separate. There are several models that were not successful trying to transform the natives in businessmen and people that run by themselves the project. What we do is different. We do our best part, that it's the concept, the investment, uh, marketing. We know what people wants to fish, so we know how to sell it. We know how to run the project. We know how to do the logistics and everything. And they do their best. That it's helping us to protect their land, helping us to keep that place pristine, also helping us to understand that place. And obviously, Rob, they are the best jungle guides in the planet because it's their home waters, it's their place, it's their gardens, their the place they grew up fishing, and they have a background of generations and generations of knowledge about the jungle, about the life, about the fish species and everything. So that where they are most proud of? Is that where they are really proud to participate on the project, being on the water, being in the jungle with the clients, with the anglers, and show you what they know about that place. And that's where we establish a deep connection between the fly fishing and the ancient knowledge of the natives. And that's where it's the most exciting thing.
So so like revenue as well. They get partner in that revenue that's generated from the
Totally,
lodge.
totally, totally, totally.
I'm gonna
They participate on the revenue and but important as important as generate the revenue to the native villages and the associations. It's how they use it. So they run and decided to run social projects in each of the communities, and they use basically that revenue for the communities in four aspects: is health, education, uh, transportation, and clean water sources and clean sources of energy like solar panel and so on. So all these four columns are where they basically use the money, and these projects are bringing then better quality of life. Better quality of life for us in a town, in a city is something. But then it's another thing. But these four columns of the project are really important to them and where they really need some help, some assistance. So all this revenue they use on that aspect, and we have a background of people that help us to run all the social part of the projects that's way beyond the just catching fish, you know.
Yeah, so they have the revenue, and then they have this lifestyle improvements based upon the revenue, and then the relationship that you guys have for, schooling, education,
Right.
water. Now,
Exactly.
would it be easier for you guys to build a relationship with a native community like with this newest one versus maybe with the original one? Was the original native relationship just easy? Did they want to participate, or was there some kind of challenges with building that original relationship with the natives?
There's always challenges that we face. Every different location that we are, even in Brazil, even in being the Brazilian Amazon, but every single different locations that we are, it's a different indigenous territory with a different ethnic group. So their needs, their requirements, and their thoughts could be different. We found out that uh, in Bolivia and Simani, it took us 3 years to put the project from the first contact with the natives to the lodge ready and ready to host the first group of anglers. And right now, with our knowledge, with our background knowledge, we know that we can run a project from zero to building a lodge in a year or maybe a less than a year. Obviously, depends on location, depends on logistics, how it's how we will set the project. But the fact is, our model and also the people that work in our company, they're so experienced in how to work with the natives that becomes easier than in the past.
Yeah, you have that history now. You have
Exactly.
a story to tell from all these other relationships. It gets a little easier the second and
Exactly.
third and the seventh time through, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And basically, the Shingle project came as a natural extension of the Kenyan project. As
Okay.
I was telling you, Kenyan project was one of our first projects in Brazil, and we always dream to have a place that we can catch up to 10 different species on the fly, sight fishing, wet wading, like you were fishing in a trout stream, but catching multi-variety species in a fly rod. And that was the place. Kenyan is the clearest water that I experienced in the Brazilian Amazon, and it's so remote, so pristine that it's the perfect place to get fly anglers to the joy of these multi-variety species in the Amazon.
So for me, I'm like, when I talk about reverse engineering, I'm a visual guy. Obviously I'm in graphics and web and in media. So I have to see to understand. So what I'd like to do is share my screen, Rodrigo, and maybe have you walk us through where we'll just take one. We don't want to put a pin on the map of every single location here. We'll be here all day, but I'd like to put a pin on the map of this Shingu because I'd like you to kind of walk us through how I would go about getting to. Hold on one second here. Oh, I still have this video thing open
Video,
here.
yes.
Uh, I'd like to go. I'd like to have you show us on a map where this first one that we've been talking about is, so I can see how I would get there. So
Mhm.
what is my, say I'm coming out of New York City. We'll just say we're flying out of New York. What is my
Mhm.
route to get to your location?
To to the Shingle River, to the
Yeah,
Shingle Lodge, the new
yeah.
place.
We'll start with that
Well,
one.
basically, in general ways, any American angler flying to the either Bolivian or Brazilian Amazon, they need to fly out of Miami. So you're flying anywhere from states to Florida, Miami,
Okay.
and then there are daily flights from Miami to the Brazilian Amazon, Manaus. It's our major and most important town in the Brazilian Amazon.
Right
We can
here.
go south, south, even souther, a little bit more.
Can you see
Yes,
Manaus here?
yeah, I can see Manaus. So
Yep.
it's where exactly where I am right now. I live in Manaus. Manaus is our Brazilian headquarters for
Yep.
the Brazilian lodges. So you have daily flights from Miami to Manaus. You have daily flights from Miami to Santa Cruz in Bolivia. That's even southern. If you want to go and check it out and see, you can go south and you see Bolivia,
Yep. Right
and
here.
then you see Santa Cruz. That is our headquarters for the Bolivian lodges.
Tsunami.
So
Yep.
yeah, both cities have international airports and they have daily flights from Miami directly there. And people think that it's oh, I'm going to the Amazon. It's so far away. It's so complicated. No. For example, for a person that live in like you in the East Coast, it's easier to travel to Amazon than going to Alaska. You
Yeah.
travel to Miami, and then from Miami to Manaus, for example, is just a 4 hour and 45 minutes flight,
So if
and
I
you
was
were
going
right
to
there.
Xingu, what happens when I get to Manaus?
Well, we arrive in Manaus. We'll be there waiting for you in the airport. You overnight in Manaus in a nice hotel, and then in the next day starts the different thing that it's for each location. We have charter flights, private charter flights that we fly you directly from Manaus to one of our lodges. In the case of the Xingu River, you're flying Manaus southeast directly from Manaus southeast 600 miles or even more until you reach the Xingu River inside the indigenous land of the Kayapos.
Okay.
You see exactly there. You
Right
see
here.
the Xingu River, and we are right in the middle. If you see the Xingu River
Oh yeah, I
flowing,
see it. Yeah.
yeah, it flows south to north
Okay.
and it meets the Amazon River up there. Yeah,
So
exactly.
this is the Kayapo indigenous territory right here.
Yeah. All this area that you see in green, limited by the red light, the red line, it's inside the Kayapo indigenous land, and it's our operation area. We have a
Yeah, because I can kind of see it now here, Rodrigo. I can kind of see the way the river breaks up like that and
well,
spreads out, very
you,
similar to the video that we watched.
yeah, you see that it's a small village right here there in the right shore, so you can see a landing
Oh,
strip
right here?
there. Uh,
Not that one.
Yes, you
That one?
see, there's a landing strip there.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh, that's where you land?
you land there, exactly there.
That's amazing. I love
And
this. Is what I love, Rodrigo. I love like looking on a
we're
map and saying,
traveling. We're
um,
traveling from home, you know.
yes, I love it. And so this is
So
your village.
exactly, that's a Pucararancre village. It's a small village of 180 Kayapos that live there. They have a small school. You see this red roof there
Yeah.
is the school. They have a small school. They have a medical post, and all the village form is in the circular perimeter. And in the center, you see a house in the center of the circle. That's the warrior's house. That's where all the Kayapos make their meetings and take all the decisions. And that's where once you arrive from the charter flight into the village, after you landing there in the landing strip, we walk you to the village to the warrior's house. And why? Because it's their tradition when they receive anybody that's a new person, that's a guest, they like to invite you to their meeting house so they can be able to introduce and present themselves as a kayapos and tell the anglers a little bit of their knowledge about their culture, about their ethnic group, and also you'll be able to also present yourself, and they will give us a little bit of their rules of their territory, what is allowed and not allowed to do, and so on. So it's a really nice moment that you are basically teletransported from our modern Occidental culture to a remote Indian village in the middle of the Amazon.
And you could be like Ben Ferimsky and get all tattooed up like the Kayapo, right?
Exactly. It's where
And
then you
Jeff Courier.
yeah, the painting for the Kayapo, it's a really important ritual and culture where they resemble some important drawings they have in their ancient culture. For example, if they're going to a hunting expedition or a fishing expedition, the warriors, the men, are painted by the woman to be prepared for that expedition. That will and that painting will give them some kind of protection. They will be protected from the dangers in the jungle, being painted like that. So they have many different paintings for many different situations, like wedding, like when a baby is born or whatever. So the painting is it's part of their tradition. It's part of their culture.
And so not only are you getting an incredible fishing experience, but you're also getting a cultural experience.
It's basically what people always said when they come back of the trip. We always ask, "Hey, how was your trip? How was the fishing?" They said the fishing was awesome, but what we really liked it was the cultural experience. What we really loved was the way we get into these native people and how you can learn from them and their incredible knowledge of all aspects of the jungle. And also in fishing, you learn a lot from our native guides.
And this area is loaded with vampire fish.
Exactly. Right there, you navigate upstream a little bit, and on the opposite shore is where we're building our lodge, the Shingle Lodge,
Right there.
and just a little bit downstream.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You found it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll be building the lodge there, and you see the river. If you see the river, how the water's clear,
Oh, you'll have
emerald.
another landing strip here.
Yes. You see how the water is really, really clear,
Yeah.
and all the rocks and all the rapids and all the runs that we have in the river. Take a look in the river structure so you understand that it's a really, really nice place to fly fish, because you have clear water, you have fast moving waters, you have sandbars, you have islands. So and it's massive. It's a massive body of water. It's not a small river,
Right.
but it's clear, and it's packed with payara. And in that stretch of river, it's where the river flows into a gigantic granite plateau, and then you have all these rock beds, and then the river starts to be faster with including some white water. So is where basically where the payara find the perfect place to hunt, to feed, and then by the end of the dry season and beginning of the rainy season to spawn. So the best moment to catch the payara is by the end of the dry season and beginning of the wet season. That's normally in the Shingle River. That's from September to December.
So, and can you do both? Can you wade there too? I know you have a lot of boat fishing. I mean, obviously, we saw in the video there's a lot of boat
Both
fishing.
ways. You fish from the boat and can wade on some rock beds and so
Okay.
on. In some specific parts, it's better to fish from the boat. In other parts, you can fish from the rocks and wade.
So, we told everybody about all the good news that you guys are building a lodge. There's a beautiful situation there that you have with the natives, and it's going to be amazing. Unfortunately, there's a little bad news as well right now because of this virus and because we're all sheltered in place. And obviously, we want to protect, especially the villagers there. It's not something that we want to expose them to, right? Because that could be a troublesome situation, getting out to hospitals and whatnot. So, why don't you
Exactly.
tell?
It's something that it's really important to say that right now we are really concerned about the health of the natives. That's our partners in all these projects. They are part of our family. They are part of our life work. So the most important thing right now, besides taking care of our business and our families, it's taking care about the natives that works with us. So in fact, Rob, Everything is changing every day, every week. With this virus situation, we are seeing the planet. It's changing so quick, and we hope for the best. We hope for a cure, for a vaccine soon. But right now, we need to take care of the natives because they are highly uh, vulnerable and susceptible to virus and spreading disease. So they don't have the access to the health system that we have, that you have. So we should be really aware and protect them. In fact, right now, all the indigenous land and national parks, both in Bolivia and Brazil, are closed for any kind of visitation. You can do nothing. And we don't know how it's going to be in the next months. We hope that we can open it up, but the first and most important thing, the government will only open these areas, and the indigenous associations together with the health systems in Brazil and Bolivia will only open these areas when they find it safe for the natives to be contact with white people from other countries. So we still don't know. We hope for the best, but we are preparing all the contingency plans for a no season, and that could happen.
Yeah.
It's a major force thing.
So, and you had mentioned to me earlier that as far as Xingu, that lodge or the potential building of that lodge was supposed to be happening right now. So, unfortunately, that lodge is going to be canceled or closed for the season.
Exactly, just because we're ready to start the lodge building in March. We're beginning the activities of the lodge building, and then all this virus
Craziness.
stuff came, and then we need to stop, and then we need to get the people all up there, and obviously impacted our sales, and it's impossible to sell something that you can deliver because you can have the lodge there, and the opposite is the same. So we decided to postpone the lodge opening for 2021. I think is the most serious thing to do for the health of the natives, because also we can't do any kind of building right now there, and also we
Right.
can't open a new project in a year like this. It's craziness to invest and do something that you don't know if you can operate or open.
Yeah.
So we're taking care of that, but we're really excited about that because we know that once all this stuff pass over and we're back in the water, we'll be better. We'll be better because we're helping the natives to protect their rivers, to keep their rivers pristine as they are,
Yeah.
and fishing will be there waiting for us.
And I'm sure that you have, a host of current clients that have visited, Mari, that have visited Ken Jam, that have visited Tsunami, that
Yes.
want to experience that new lodge when it is going to open.
Exactly, for sure. We'll drag the attention because what happened is when you get in the jungle and start to catch all those species on the fly, you want to do something more. You want to do something different. You
It's
catch
a little
Dorado.
addicting. Is that what you're saying? It's a little addicting.
Exactly. I'm suspicious to say because I'm completely addicted to that.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm not the best person to say that, but
Yeah.
anyway, uh, you want to go to Dorado, then you want to experience the peacock bass, then you want to experience the multi-variety species. For example, in Cajun, that you catch 8 different species on the fly using a 6 to 7 weight rod, from
Right.
a teeny dry fly for pacu or a big popper for wolffish or payara. Then you go for this vampire fish, the payara in the Shingle River, or the giant arapaima,
Right.
that it's a monster fish up to 400 pounds that you catch with 12 weight rod. So we have it all in the jungle.
Right. Right. So what I want to go through, and we've spent quite a bit of time on Xingu, just because I'm addicted to that video. I love it so much. First of all, I have to ask you, who made that? What was the production house that completed that
It
video?
it is home stuff.
You
When I
guys
say
did it.
home, it is we decided to train a couple of filmmakers to be our filmmakers for fly fishing in Brazil and Bolivia. And those guys Daniel and Camilo, they're really good. They're cinema guys
Yeah,
from Bolivia, and then we train them to be a fly fishing filmmakers.
they did an
And they're
awesome job.
yeah, every year in every film they're getting better and better. Marcelo loved to edit with them, and I'm
Yeah, I
more.
heard he's quite a director.
It is. It is. Marcelo is our Scorsese of fly fishing.
That's what Ben told me.
And basically, he do all the edition because Marcelo it lives in Santa Cruz in Bolivia, and Daniel and Camilo are filmmakers. They live there, so they have ability to be day by day out with them on the edition stuff. I'm more in the field and the logistics, and we love to do this together, this kind of production and showing all these new species, the new videos, and we'll be preparing really soon a how-to video series on how you do fly fish for Payara, how you do fly fish for
That's
Dorado, what's
awesome.
the best flies, what's the best rigging, and what techniques you use for catching wolfish on poppers or catching bicuda. So we are starting to create more educational and technique videos for the angling community to know more about these species and be more prepared.
I love that. So before we close, and I just want to run through the lodges here real quick, Rodrigo, because I want to give our viewers an understanding of what's possible. I mean, we've kind of did a documentary here on Xingu, but I'm confident that the adrenaline and the excitement of the video that we showed and the location that we talked about that is unfortunately closed for this year can be found at any of your lodges. And it just depends on, the species that you want to target and kind of the accommodations. I know some you're on land and even some you're out of a boat. Is that true? You have like
Yes,
a boat?
yes, yes. For example, in Bolivia, we have land-based lodges because we are right there and it's not so far from going from fishing beach to fishing beach. Same happening in Cajun and same happening in Xingu. But in the Maria for the peacock bass, we decided to do something completely different. The Maria River is one of the most important tributaries of the Negro River in the Amazon basin, in the headwaters. And in that indigenous land, the river, it's all inside it, from the headwaters to the mouth of the river into the Negro River. So it is 700 miles of water, completely unspoiled and virgin, no communities in there because all the villages are in the mouth. So it's as remote and untouched as ever. And all this 600 miles of water is fishable. So makes no sense to build one land-based place
Right.
uh, when you have 600 miles water to explore. And for the peacock bass, considering the species and the behavior of the species, is even more important. Peacock bass is opposite of payara, dorado, and other species. They are not migratory species. They
Okay.
are territorial species.
Like a
They
bass.
Exactly. They stay in the same place for the whole year and maybe the whole life. They do not move so far away. There are some studies that we're making. We just started a tagging program there just to understand better the behavior of this Tamensis peacock bass, which is the largest species of peacock bass. But basically, they are territorials. And if you have a land-based lodge that you fish from that spot, you can cover, I don't know, maybe 80 miles maximum if you do some outcomes or whatever. But if you're fishing constantly the same areas, season after season, week after week, day after day, uh, the fish get smart, especially the big ones. So
Move
one of the
around.
key, one of the key features that you must consider for peacock bass fishing is moving. It is to not repeat the same water all along the season. So that's where we decided to build a mothership There is nothing new about that because most of the peacock bass outfitters in the Amazon, they do the same. They use some boats,
Yeah.
but basically they use some small boats, traditional, and they're tight. They have small cabins, really small
Yeah.
bathrooms. They're not comfortable as a land-based lodge. So me and Marcelo, we went to our craziness moments, and I'm as a civil engineer and Marcelo as an architect. We started to think, hey, let's build a floating lodge, but not only a floating lodge. Let's build a boat, a ship that it can be a floating lodge, but also can navigate in shallow water, and it drafts only 3 feet of water.
Wow.
Massive mothership that drafts only 3 feet of water, and we need that because we are running up to the headwaters, and we have places that are really shallow. We have some tide bands in the river, so we have two engines, so we can do a 360-degree spin with the boat in these small tight corners. And at the same time, we want to create something different, super comfortable, but also highly possible to move up
Yeah.
and downstream quickly, and then by the end, we want something sustainable. So we decide to build the very first green ship in the Amazon. It's 100% solar power generation for all the electricity. Have 96 solar panel in the roofs. We
Wow.
have a 3-ton battery bank from Japan at the mothership. So all the electricity, the refrigerators, the air conditioning system on the mothership runs from the solar generation and the batteries. So it's a cutting edge in terms of a mothership in the Amazon. Also, we decided to get rid of any plastic bottle in any of our lodges. So we find a real modern filtration system in several layers that starts as a membrane filter and then ends in a UV lamps and reverses osmosis. So we can purify the water from the river and get it completely potable and drinkable.
Wow.
And we do not use any plastic bottle in any of our other operations, and also at the mothership. So it is the very first green ship in the Amazon, and that's using a float plane because other thing is where you land. You're flying from Manaus, 700 miles west, but you don't have landing strips there. So you need to land in the water. So we use float planes, Grand Caravan float planes, 8-person capacity, from Manaus directly where the mothership are. So if you
Otter?
were,
Is it an otter?
yes,
Twin otter?
no, it's a Grand Caravan.
Grand
It's a,
Caravan otter though.
yeah, otter. It's a hydroplane, and we land
700 miles
700 miles, 3 hour
in
flight.
3 hours. Wow.
Yeah,
I've never gone 700 miles
yeah,
in a float plane. The longest I've gone is I think 200 miles in a float plane. So that's
and
amazing. You can land wherever the ship is.
exactly. If the fishing is good on a specific moment of the season and the headwaters, will be there. And then from that spot, we're moving every day. Every day we're covering new waters, so you're not repeating the beats and the areas day after day, week after week. And as we have roughly 700 miles of water to cover, and normally we cover 100 miles per week, we will repeat the sector one after 7 or 8 weeks. So we let it rest for 7 or 8 weeks. Our season is 16 weeks. So in the
Yep.
same areas, we roughly fish 2 or 3 times maximum.
So real quickly here, Rod, what is the species of peacock bass that are there? You have like several types of peacock bass.
Yes, that's an interesting thing. People think that a peacock bass are peacock bass. Peacock bass are many different species of peacock bass. In the Amazon, we have at least known and scientifically described 15 different species.
Wow.
15.
Of
And
peacock
the
bass.
large of peacock bass. Basically, each different basin in the Amazon will have this geography areas that will have different species. But the most important and the largest one is the Cicla temensis, which is the largest species of peacock bass and can reach over 30 pounds. And it's found basically in the black acid tannin waters of the Negro River Basin. and the Maria, it's one of the most important tributaries of the Negro River Basin, and definitely the most protected one. Other ones, they're not inside indigenous lands, so you have some commercial fishing, poaching,
Yep.
not well organized and distributed sport fishing outfitter operations. So the Maria, first, it is remote. No people live in there from the headwaters to the mouth. It's inside the indigenous land, and the most important characteristics, in my opinion, also it is a river that have a deep channel, so have a lots of bait fish that runs upstream. That is the
Hmm.
main source of food for the peacock bass. So peacock bass that have a lot of food. So that's why we land 20 pounders every day there.
And these are aggressive fish. I mean, you can
It's
get them on
amazing.
top.
A peacock bass, it's something unbelievable in the jungle. Maybe the Dorado could be the most plastic, long fight, jumping fish,
Yep.
but nothing is comparable of a top water take of a 20-pound peacock bass in the Amazon. No,
That's awesome.
it's like having a tank attacking your fly. It's like you're
Okay, stop
flushing
teasing, stop
water
teasing
from.
us, stop teasing us, Rod. You're teasing us now. I'm sheltered in place. I'm stuck in my house in Boston for a month, and now you're teasing me with 20-pound peacock bass on the
Me
top.
either. I'm at home for a long time, and also when I start talking about that, I just want to go there and fish and forget about all this stuff. But we are not.
I know.
But anyway, it's good. It's good to dream because they are there and they exist, and we are glad to bring that to the angling community, and still nowadays know that we still have unspoiled and pristine places to catch this amazing jungle species. And a big peacock bass on the fly is something overwhelming. Ben had a fishing week there with us, and it's a fun story because most of the anglers say, no, we're not using 60-pound fluorocarbon straight leaders. It's too much. I use it to catch tarpon with a 20-pound tippet or 40-pound maximum or whatever. But for those peacock bass, if you use something less than 60-pound straight 60-pound fluorocarbon leaders, you're not in the game.
You're gonna
They
break it.
explode, they explode a 40-pound leader like 5x.
That's crazy. Let's just do a fire round here so we can give our viewers an overview of the species that are available at the lodges. So outside of the peacock bass and Mari, are there any other species available?
Basically, in the Moria, we have the Temessus species of peacock bass, which is the largest species, as I mentioned. We have also the butterfly species, and we have lots of butterfly. So you catch some big ones, and then you catch many medium to small species peacock bass. That is the butterfly. It is an amazing species to catch with an
Yep.
8-weight rod. You can catch butterflies up to 10 pounds, and they are really strong. And then you have some vicuda, you have some black piranha, you have some arowanas there. But the main target are the Temensis big peacock bass in the Maria River.
And what about Peraruku?
Pirarucu, it's the name Pirarucu, it's our Portuguese name for the Arapaima. The
Okay.
Arapaima gigas is the largest freshwater scale fish on earth. You have bigger fish on freshwater as a catfish, but fish with scales, the Arapaima is the largest one on freshwater.
Is that where
And
Ben went?
yes.
Peraruku, and he caught the 300-pound Arapaima?
Exactly at
And
our
for
place.
Gigas, the movie was Gigas, right?
Yeah, gigas, exactly. And pirarucu means in the native Tupi language, the red fish. Pira is fish, and uku, it's red because comes from the urucum fruit. That is the fruit that they paint themselves on red. It stains on red in the skin. So pirarucu means the red fish that resembles the red marks that they have on the scales,
It's amazing.
especially the males in the spawning season. So
Okay.
this fish can grow up to 400 pounds, and the Mamirawa Reserve is the largest wild Arapaima reserve in Amazon. It is a 2 million hectare reserve. It's a connection, it's the junction of two important rivers in the central Brazilian Amazon, that is the Solimões River aka Amazon River, and the Japura River. And these both rivers, they come together in the fork, and the area between this massive body of waters is the largest floating jungle we have in the Amazon. When I say floating jungle, it's like a marsh, but a marsh with a 20-meter trees. When the wet season gets there, we have water almost up to the canopy. So it's all flooded. Between these
Wow.
both rivers in the wet season, it gets all flooded. But that creates the perfect environment for many different species to feed and then spawn. They have lots of food there, from small fish species that eat some plankton and are omnivorous or eating leaves and fruits, up to the giant arapaima. And the giant arapaima in the Mamirawa Reserve, they have in the Mamirawa Lake uh, water that it's 2 or 3 degrees cooler than the main rivers. So the fish find that cooler water, better oxygen levels, and lots of food there. So they all migrate from July, August inside this marshland, the complex of lakes, lagoons, and channels. They're interconnected with the rivers. They enter there to feed and then get prepared for the spawning season. And that's the place we have our project, Pirarucu, and basically the amount of fish that we can see and catch there, it's outstanding, outstanding.
That's amazing. And then what about Kenjam? What are the species in Kenjam?
Cajun, we say that it's our multi-variety species because, as I told you before, you can catch up to 10 different species on the fly, but basically we have the Melani species of peacock bass that can reach up to 10 to 12 pounds in Kenyan. You fish on site, and it's the only one species of peacock bass that prefer moving water than still water, because most of the peacock bass, like any bass, they stay in calmer water. But the Melani species of peacock bass, they prefer to be in a moving water. So it's really fun. We catch them with the same techniques we use for the freshwater dorado. Then we have Payara, we have Bicuda. Bicuda is like a pike cherry. It's a long fish that have a big tail, they have a skinny body, and a bullet head with a tip mouth that it resembles like a freshwater barracuda or something like that. And it's one of the most intense species in the jungle because they are top waters. They hunt on top, and they're super fast. They're incredibly fast, and it's really fun to catch. So after that, you have the wolffish. The wolffish is that prehistoric-like fish, this
Yeah.
brownish fish that have some teeth. They're the pit bulls of the jungle. They don't care about anything. They're not leader shy. They're not even rock shy. You can throw anything in the water, and if they are in an aggressive mood, they will attack your fly. And
Keep
if
your
they
fingers
miss,
out of the water, right? Keep your fingers out of the water.
definitely. And if you miss, you cast again the popper, you hook the fish jump, they go back to the same pocket water, then you cast again, you catch the same fish again. So they're prehistoric animals.
That's fun. That must be a lot of
They're
fun.
really fun to catch. Then you have 3 different species of pacu, omnivorous fish, brown fish that you catch from uh, small dry flies and nymphs, same
Yeah.
ones that you fish for trout, a madamax, grasshoppers, or even an elk hair caddies with a prince nymph. We use the dropper situation, casting upstream in runs, and we're catching pacu. And there
So
are 3 different.
that's like a jungle um that's like a jungle permit. Kind of looks like a
Exactly.
permit.
Exactly. Pacu in the Amazon, we have more than 20 different species. In Kenyan, they're not giant ones, they're medium-sized ones. But the interesting thing, it's they eat top water flies, mostly dry flies.
So I need to go to
They jump,
Kenjam. What's that?
and they jump.
And they jump. So I need to go
Yeah.
to Kenjam if I want to check off a bunch of species to catch up with Jeff Courier and his list of 425 species.
Yeah. Ask Jeff Curry about Kenyan. You see, he caught many species there, and he really enjoyed because in Kenyan every day you're catching different species. In fact, in the same places, in the same runs, in the
Yeah.
same in the same water you're casting for a peacock bass, and then you see a wolffish, and then you're looking back and you see a bicuda, and you go for the top water for the pacu or even the matrinchan. So you have lots of action of different species all day long.
Well, that sounds amazing. I want to, before we close, I want to just, if we give just a quick couple minute overview of the Bolivia. I don't want to leave out Bolivia. I know maybe we can come back and do another one sometime on Bolivia
Yeah,
because you've
I
got
would
the three
love.
lodges there.
Yeah.
But why don't you talk about what's available on your Bolivia locations, Rodrigo?
Well, as I told you, Bolivia was our first project. Our first season in Bolivia was 2009. So we have a lot of experience there. And having grown up fishing for Dorado, we never saw something similar as the Bolivian rivers of Simani. The Dorado there is the only place that we find the Dorado in the Amazon basin. Normally, first thing, the Dorado is a fish that is found in the Paraná River system. That it's Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, southern part of Bolivia, Argentina. That's the basic main basin of the Dorado. There's another species of Dorado in the San Francisco River in Brazil as well. But most of the fly fishing and sport fishing outfitters works in Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina. The Dorado in Bolivia, they're in a different watershed. There are several different reasons that happen in the geological era. There's some biologists and that study all this movement of the fish all over the time, the geological time. But the fact is, in one moment, those rivers that was connecting between the southern part of the Amazon basin with the Parana basin, they interconnected, and then the Dorado passed from the Parana basin to the headwaters of that Amazon rivers basin system. And by the end, why don't you find the Dorado in other parts of the Amazon or in the Brazilian Amazon, whatever, is still a mystery. But probably it's because the Dorado there in those Bolivian rivers, they find uh, all they need. Dorado needs lots of oxygen, so they find rivers with a good source of oxygen because they are water that are flowing from the foothills of the Andes Mountains. They're oxygenated and they become all the source of oxygen they Dorado need. Dorado need to migrate in fast water, so they have this migration possible there to activate their spawning system. They have a lot of food because they're completely protected, so you have lots of food. You see the bait fish there, the main bait fish there are the sabalo. It's like a giant mullet,
I've
you
heard
know.
about these stories on your podcast with these Savalo.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be amazing.
You have tons of sabalo migrating upstream, and the river turns black. All of the sabalo migrating, it's unbelievable. And then after that, chasing the sabalo comes the dorado. It's it's overwhelming. It resembles like the new and the lion migrations in Africa in the savannas.
Yeah.
It's basically like that. So the dorado are chasing the sabalo, and then all these fish uh, get into the system in the Simone waters, and then they all there from early May to October. That's the dry season for Simone. It's May to October. It's our fishing season. In Bolivia, we fish basically for the Dorado, for the Pacu, and they will have Pacu up to 30 pounds there, big Pacu, and also the Jatorana. That's another species that we also find in other rivers in the Amazon, in Brazilian destinations as well, that you can catch on dry flies. But obviously, the superstar of the Bolivian Simone rivers are the Dorado, and it is a perfect game fish to catch on a fly rod.
Would you say one word to explain the Dorado would be explosive?
Dorado, in my opinion, have all the features in a sportive game fish in any kind of aspect. You can think about a jumping tarpon. You can think about an old brown trout sipping a dry fly behind the log. You can think about a bonefish hunting in shallow water. You have all these characteristics on the Dorado. You know,
Okay.
Dorado, it's a fish that can be as shy as a brown trout, can be as aggressive as a GT or a feeding tarpon, or
Interesting.
can be as spooky as a bonefish in shallow water.
That's
You know?
amazing. I love the way you kind of put that together. The trout, the sipping trout, you have the aggressive GT, or you have the spooky bonefish. So that's
Exactly.
wild.
That's the Dorado. That's the Dorado in Bolivia. Yeah.
I love that. Well, before we get on to our secret, I promised our viewers a secret location that you guys announced recently. I want to talk just about the Amazon jungle as a whole, outside of your lodges, outside of the fishing. I want to talk about what the Amazon jungle is to the world, as far as what are the features and some of the life cycles that are taking place in the jungle, and as it relates to, are there challenges right now that are going on in the world that the Amazon is facing, and especially with fires and deforestation. Those are the two things I want to talk about with you as somebody who lives in Manaus, lives in Brazil, works and supports the jungle. Are the things that are going on that we in America or around the world need to know about the Amazon jungle as it pertains to a natural resource for the world? And are there challenges that the jungle is facing?
Well, first to understand that the Amazon jungle, if you see in the map of South America, is the largest rainforest area that we have on the planet. You know, is the most important rainforest area that we have in the planet, and that have very very important meaning for the equilibrium of the global weather in the planet. I don't want to further extend explanations on that because we can talk about hours about the importance of the Amazon for the global weather and climate changes and everything. But well, 20% of all fresh water to go to the oceans comes from the Amazon River. You know, so the number of birds, species, fish species that we have there, all the life that it's in the Amazon, it's overwhelming. All the plants that we have in the Amazon that have helped the pharmaceutical industry to find new stuff for their medicines. If you see that, it's unbelievable. Start to read that, it's unbelievable. And we see that in the villages, the ancient knowledge of the natives and how they cure several different diseases just with natural extracts of plants. You know,
Wow.
so and that's in the pharmaceutical industry for decades and decades. But what we are seeing nowadays, and it's nothing new because deforestation in the Amazon, it's something that is happening since the 70s when all the agricultural borders were open and the government starts to say, let's occupy the Amazon because it's necessary to send people there. It was a really messy stuff in terms of land management and organization, you know. So that's a lot of speculation on lands in federal lands in the Amazon, and people that occupy these areas and they burn the jungle to set their ranch or whatever to then after a couple of years claim the rights of the land. And that was a historical process in the Amazon that was included, subsidized by the government in many countries. But the fact is that it becomes out of control. There are many threats, logging, uh, illegal mining. I see illegal mining as one of the most uh, dangerous things for the Amazon rivers because puts a lot of poison in the water, and it's completely uncontrolled right now in most of the Amazon countries like Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela. You have illegal mining everywhere, especially gold, and that's really bad for the rivers. Deforestation, they need to burn to clean it faster. And what happened the last year that was in all media about the Amazon is on fire, it's burning everywhere. In fact, it was true because uh, it was huge, but not as different as other years. The fact that we had last year uh, driest months and drier than I don't know 20 years in average for those months. So what happened is those fires become uncontrolled because the land was so dry, the jungle was so dry, and that's happening more and more here. And unfortunately, if we are not protect the areas that we can have possibilities to protect, like the national parks or even the indigenous territories, uh, I don't know if we have the Amazon that we see now for the future generations.
Well, yeah, being there local, I did want to get your thoughts on that. I know we can get into a political discussion real fast, and that's not necessarily the point. But I'm glad that you did enlighten us to a bit of some of the challenges the Amazon face, as well as some of the beauty and some of the resource with the birds and the plants and the water, the fish that the Amazon provides. So I'm sure it's a great place that a lot of our viewers want to come and visit and explore. So
And it's a
thank you.
great place to live as well.
Yeah, it's a great place to live and a great place to go fishing. We do want to jump off, and before we close, and I know I've said that a couple of times, before we close, I want to talk real quickly about that one other secret location, that new location, not so much a secret, but a new location that you guys have started in Cuba. So can you give us a quick overview of your new Cuba program?
Yes, we always wanted to do something in Cuba. In the beginnings of our company back in 2008, we had an operation in the Seychelles with the Roche Island Fly Fishing Project, and we ran that program for a couple of years. In fact, it was so far away for us that we started to concentrate more in the jungle destinations. But we always still love to have something in Cuba, and that opportunity became last year when we got the concession of the Guanahabibes National Park, that it's located in the west tip of the Cuba island. If you see in the map, is the furthest western side of the Cuba, right on the tip. And there's the Guanahabibes Peninsula and the Guanahabibes National Park. You're going to have a map and you have an idea. We are getting out of the jungle right now.
We're going up to Cuba.
Yeah, fly out of the jungle directly to Cuba.
Over here?
It's not too far away. Yes, you see Cuba there. So you see the really west tip of the island. All this green area is the Guanahabibes National Park.
Yeah.
And this park was closed for many years. I have a really small accommodation facility there. They're using by the Cuban government officials, and we got the concession of the place. And the fact is, we have roughly 200 miles of coast to explore.
Okay.
If you go back to the map, you see that the northern part of the national park, we have flats, sand flats, as you see in this photo. But you have sand flats, you have mangrove, you have turtle grass, and you have channels, all in the northern part. And the southern part, you see the northern part, all these coasts are flat zones. And then you have the southern part also with a huge potential. The thing is, this area, it's completely unexplored.
Okay.
So we have a truly real big potential to find great fish in there. We have done some exploratory trips there in the past year, in the other year, and have to be proven an amazing tarpon fishery, really amazing tarpon fishery, really good for bone fishing, and seems to be a really good permit fishery. Uh, why? Because there are a lot of crabs. There are blue crabs everywhere there. You go from to the roads from Havana, and then when you enter in the national park, you have those dirty roads that goes to Cabo San Antonio, where the hotel there, the small hotel that we lease there, and it's full of crabs. And the southern part of the national park, the coast there, it's a shoreline with the corals, reds, and you have lots of typical permit uh, habitats in environments with lots of food. So we are truly confident that we will have some great surprise in permit fishing in the southern part of the national park. And well, we are ready to open a really new, exciting saltwater destination for the angling community.
Well, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Rodrigo, for sharing this time. I appreciate you giving us your knowledge and your enthusiasm, the sneak peek into the jungle, into Bolivia as well as Brazil, and also our touch into Cuba there. Your expertise is obviously very well stated here. I think our viewers could feel very comfortable contacting you and deciding what type of fishing they'd want to participate in. I know you guys are, like many of our tourist lodges and our friends, are going through a challenging time right now that you have to shut down. But I would encourage our viewers to connect with you, go onto your website, check out what might be available to them for a destination trip into the jungle or Cuba, and see what might be available to them, because I know we're going to come out of this, COVID-19 situation here in the near future. Hopefully we can save the season and people can get out this summer and get to some of their destinations. But obviously even maybe do some planning, if not even for this year, plan to connect with you for 2021. Obviously we hope to get out and do some fishing in 2020, but I know, as you well stated, that your primary goal is to protect your villagers and your partners in the villages. And so we'll have to wait to see what happens with the virus and what happens with the opening of the national park. So if you could leave our viewers and our listeners here, Rodrigo, with the best way to connect with you again through your website or through any email or social media opportunities.
Sure. First, again, Rob, thank you very much for the chance and the opportunity to have this nice talk and share a little bit more about what we know of jungle fly fishing. If anybody is thinking of fishing in the Amazon jungle anytime, just you can contact me. I would be more than happy to help in any aspect, in trip planning, species planning, or you have a gear doubts or flies, whatever. It's our life. We do that for 20, 25 years. We know a lot, and we are more than glad to share our knowledge to anybody in the angling community that wants to fish in the Amazon jungle. The best way to contact us could be through my email. It's rodrigo@uangling.com, or you can have our website, our major website, a company website, untamedangling.com. And from there, it's our launch base to other lodges websites and blogs and all information that we have, YouTube videos and so on. So you can feel free to contact me anytime, and we'll be more than happy to help anybody that wants to go fly fishing in the jungle.
That's amazing. Well, obviously I can only imagine Untamed Angling was formed because it's not a tame place where you're going. You're going into kind of a remote location, but how did the name came about?
The idea basically came with Marcelo, that saw a series that comes, and it's an old series that say the Twilight Zone, and the Twilight Zone series came and put place in our first destination, that was La Zona, and that established what it could be an untamed place, to be untamed, to be really off the grid, outside of the normal place. So it's that where we are going to be in the next years. That's where we came from. We are the Untamed guys.
That adventure.
Yes.
If you want an adventure, hook up with Marcelo and Rodrigo down at Untamed Angling and go on an adventure. So untamedangling.com, Marcelo, be safe, be well. We'll stay in touch. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for being part of the Fly Fishing Show. I know you guys have a full show season next year. if our viewers want to come and talk, you guys have a beautiful booth. You guys take up a nice, 2 or 3 sections there with your different locations, and the website is beautifully created. And your booth at the fly fishing shows is very well. It's a beautiful booth, so I expect nothing less.
Thank
So
you.
I know you guys are in Denver. I know you guys are in New Jersey, Atlanta, Pleasanton, Linwood. You guys are almost in the entire circuit. So if people
Yes,
wanted to
we
come
don't
out and
always
shake your
expect to be
hand,
there.
they can come out and meet you guys here at the booth as well.
Yes, thank you. We'll be there and hope to meet people also in the next fly fishing shows. It's also a place that we love to be, where we can share our knowledge and tell a little bit more about the jungle species, have some talks and meet some old friends. We love to be there.
And continue the journey, continue the conversation.
Sure, definitely. We can do that all the time.
Be safe, Rodrigo. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time today. And we will be talking to you real soon, and we'll get this up on our channels for you.
Okay, let's keep in touch. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the talk. It was really nice. Thank you, Rob.
My pleasure, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.